so exciting. We have a challenge today. We're going to make shampoo. It is July 20th, 2020. Glad to see you. Welcome back. Welcome new subscribers. Here we go. Let's make some soap, or in this case, shampoo. This is going to be a hot process. I'm putting my stick blender together. As you can see, my lye is ready. I'm using a new oil, so I have much less coconut oil in, way that doesn't sound right, way less olive oil in. I've matched the amount of coconut oil with grapeseed oil, and then I've put in a lot more castor oil, more than double. What I'm showing you there is a little over 200 grams of my own apple cider that I made myself to go into the water portion, but not into the lye solution. Instead of super fatting a lot, I'm actually using a super liquid or a super water formula. What that means basically is that there's less water in the lye solution, and that apple cider vinegar is going in at the end. All of that infused rosemary that you saw a couple of episodes ago with the infused oil episode, all of it went in there, and it was a little over 200 grams, and then the rest was made up with the olive oil portion. I think I cut off the actual trace here, maybe not. It came to trace very quickly, but it took a while to emulsify, so we're gonna at some point speed it up when it gets to be, kind of like me fighting that first stage where it's really stiff. A couple things I want to point out. Yes, those of you who are following along, sharp eyes, that is in fact a short sleeve chef jacket. Yes, we did miss the trace, but you can see how thick it is, and this is our first cook, and I am bound and determined not to have a boil over this time, not even a little bit. We are cooking it on high. We are using our silicone cover and creating a little bit of a vacuum to keep all the moisture in. This is our beginning of our second stir down, and we have not had a boil over. You cannot imagine how happy I am. I caught it right at the point where it was going to start expanding by getting rid of the oxygen in the water part, and so it's not as stiff as the previous go round. It's actually pretty good, and if you look closely you can see white streaks in there where where it looks like it might boil over again, and so I go at it with the stick blender to keep those bubbles broken up so that it doesn't foam over. And yes, I'll just, spoil alert here, I was successful this time. I can't really tell you whether it was a change in oil or what exactly. The composition is very different. You can see it's really rough looking. It's very lumpy looking, and I suppose it is lumpy, but it's not like hard chunks. It's just soft lumps. At any rate, there is much less coconut oil, and there's no beeswax. And to that end, as long as we're talking about boilovers, everybody says don't put in more than 5% of beeswax per oil volume, but they never say why. And I happened to come across someone who just casually mentioned about boilovers in conjunction with talking about adding beeswax. And the light bulb went on, and I said, aha, I'll bet you that's what it is. And because this is shampoo, there's no beeswax in it. So I took the stick blender to it one more time to ensure that there was no disasters, but I'm really convinced that it's a combination of beeswax and potentially also high coconut oil content. So we've stirred it down. I'm feeling a lot better now. Cap goes back on, and we wait, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Each of these cook times We're only about 5 or 10 minutes before I saw a change. I didn't time it. This time, when I decided that it was finished, it was difficult for me to see the Vaseline. It had a very smooth texture in some places, and in other places it was that lumpy, bumpy looking texture, even though the whole thing was smooth. So I added the apple cider vinegar with some sodium lac and, just called it good. I couldn't see any reason why it wasn't done. So I mix all that down really well. This is going to be a much softer bar on the hardness scale just because there's so little hard fat in there. The only hard fat in there is coconut oil, and it's much less proportionately or percentage wise than I would normally use, and much less than the oils. There's no shea butter and no cocoa butter in there and no beeswax in there because I don't want anything heavy on my hair. I want it to wash through. And so that's why I tried grapeseed, because grapeseed, when you put it on your skin, it dries really fast. So we're about ready to pan this up, and I have some little 2-ounce square sample sizes that I want to use for this shampoo. One or two of you out there might be bummed that there's no boil over and no volcano and no comedy routine and no disaster, and that's not entirely true. There was a disaster, but it was off camera after I was done filming and I was starting to clean up. Just when I was starting to clean up, I knocked something, and a whole, probably a good quart and a half, maybe 2 quarts of water that my stick blender sits in. You see me put it off camera all the time. It's in water so that I can buzz the hard soap or the soap batter that isn't in the pot off of that stick blender. And so the whole thing went, spewing everywhere. Water underneath my power bar, and all my electronics that are worth having anyway were plugged in. Some of it splashed into my sample tray, and I don't think, even though I let that sample tray, I poured the water off, I let it, go through the drying and curing process overnight. I don't think those samples, those 6 bars, are ever going to dry out, but we'll see. Well, I'm happy to report that, despite what I thought, there's those 6 bars. They did dry out, and I got quite a few bars, only 2-ounce bars this time. And they will be up for grabs as samples, and I'll bring you more on that soon.